My loving and pregnant wife had deleted a message from my ex to say that she was pregnant with my kid, and I don't know if I can forgive her, as I've only just found out 5 years later. Original poster, u/Throwrashton. It's been almost 2 weeks since I found out. We did the tests, and she's mine. My ex had sent me a message a couple of weeks before giving birth, telling me about everything. My then girlfriend, now wife, saw that my ex had sent me a message and deleted it, then blocked her, apparently without reading it. My ex took that as me not wanting to be involved and raised our daughter all alone. For 5 bloody years. My daughter is turning 5 in a month, and I haven't even met her. Every time I think about how much I missed out on, I just lose it. I know I must focus on what I've gained instead of what I've lost, but damn, it's hard. I don't even want to start on what my ex had to go through alone, or the desperation she must have felt when she reached out to my mother for help, even though she hates her almost as much as she hates me. My wife says she's remorseful. That she was just very immature at the time and didn't think it could be that important, so much so that she forgot about it. I've never loved anyone more than my wife. She's supported me through so much. I believe she genuinely feels bad and regrets it. She's about 21 weeks pregnant with our first child together. We're currently separated while I deal with everything, but I don't know how we'll move forward after this. Edit. To further elaborate, I found out through my mother, who was contacted by my ex about my daughter and how I had ghosted her. I was talking to my wife about this, and she confessed to deleting the message and blocking her. My ex asked my mother for some cash for our daughter, and then my mom chewed me out for being a deadbeat. Asked her what she was talking about, and she told me about my ex and how I blocked her. Mentioned it to my wife, who admitted there was a time where she deleted a message from my ex and blocked her. Relevant comment. Seeing a professional is the only way to handle this. We're just anonymous people online with no actual qualifications. In situations like this, you need to see a professional. Response. In all honesty, I was a crap boyfriend to her, especially towards the end, so I can't blame her for not trying harder to contact me. That's on me. I do want to forgive her. As I said, I believe she was just being childish in the moment, but damn, that was some bad timing. I'm not entirely sure I can forget about this. Update 1. I got some messages asking for updates, and since my post got some attention, I thought I should provide one publicly. Long story short, I met with my ex last week to properly explain myself and discuss the whole what now situation. It didn't end up being productive and was mostly filled with awkward silence, with a few minor arguments. Towards the end, she said she'd been talking to a lawyer and didn't want me to be involved. She plans to seek full custody of our daughter with no visitation, as well as sue me for back child support and put me on child support going forward. So, that was fun. To be clear, I was always going to provide more than my fair share for any child of mine. I really don't know how any of this works, but I haven't received anything official from the court yet, so it could have just been a threat, but she seems serious. Regardless, I decided to find myself a lawyer to help instead of waiting around. I was eventually connected with an old friend's brother, who I'm meeting tomorrow, which is great. My wife and I are trying to work things out. Due to the lawyer and court situation, we couldn't afford an actual therapist, but my wife's pastor offered to provide marriage counseling. We only had 2 sessions before the family drama broke out, so we temporarily paused counseling. The fact that my wife deleted the message has leaked to the rest of the family, which has led to her receiving hostile messages from a couple of family members. My lovely older sister also added fuel to the fire by posting about this on her Facebook. My wife has locked herself at home since, and she's taking everything pretty badly. Even her friends know now and have distanced themselves from her. I'm really worried about her, but at least her mom is there with her, and I try to check on her regularly. It's all just overwhelming. When I'm not thinking about my daughter, I'm thinking about my ex. When I'm not thinking about my ex, I'm thinking about the family drama. And when I'm not thinking about that, I'm thinking about my marriage and the pregnancy. Then there's still work, so it's been a really terrible week. I'm finding it hard to maintain optimism and excitement for my daughter with all this going on. It's just a shit situation all around. This ended up being more of a vent, so sorry about that. I probably won't give another update in the future unless there's good news, so just thanks for the support. Relevant comments. Comment 1. He admits he was a horrible boyfriend to her and pushed her away. So when she sent the text telling him about the baby and he didn't respond, it was probably par for the course for how he had always treated her and wasn't surprised, so had no reason to want to involve a guy who would treat her that way in her daughter's life. I'm not saying she's blameless. But he sure as crap isn't. And he still hasn't answered the last post's questions about whether the wife purposely deleted the text knowing what they said. Comment 2. Did you bother to press your wife on if she read the text or not? That was one of the most pressing questions posed in the last post. Response. I didn't want to push it too much, but I did sit her down and ask her again, and she assured me that she never read it. Only saw that it was from my ex and deleted it based on that. Update 2. It's quite a long story, so the more condensed version is that I've met my daughter. My ex and I handled the custody and support agreement ourselves, still signed off by the court, and we're both committed to making co-parenting work. So far, it's been going well. My wife and I are back home, and we're both excited about her nearing due date. We've decided to move forward. The longer version. The last update ended with my ex threatening to take me to court. The lawyer I had arranged suggested we try mediation, so we set that up with her lawyers and a mediator. Overall, the mediation went quite poorly and seemed to be more harmful than helpful in terms of us cooperating. We only had 2 actual sessions, both filled with unnecessary fighting and no resolution. Ironically, the chaos during mediation made us realize neither of us was interested in fighting each other indefinitely. She reached out late in the evening after the second session, asking to meet up the next day. In that meeting, we talked things out and listened to each other. We sorted through some baggage from our relationship and discussed what had been happening over the past 5 years. It was a long conversation, but completely worth it. We agreed to make it work and put our daughter first. A meeting was arranged for me to drive over and meet my daughter face to face, and I did. At the time, I wasn't introduced to her as her father, and she was understandably cautious around this random guy, but it was still great seeing her for the first time. She's been seeing someone to help with my transition into her life, and since then, I've been properly introduced to her. She's even started calling me Papa, so things are going incredibly well, and she's coping really well with it all. Plus, my ex has mentioned that if she finds a better job where I am, she'd consider moving, so distance might not be a long-term issue. But that's still a big if. For now, I'll keep driving up to visit her until we're comfortable enough for her to make the trip to me. The last update about my wife mentioned my sister posting about everything and my family arguing with her. My sister has since removed the post and apologized to my wife, although it wasn't the most sincere apology, it was still an apology. The reconciliation process between my family and my wife is ongoing, but things are progressing more or less well. My wife temporarily moved to her parents' house for about a month to get away from everything but has since moved back home, as we're expecting the birth of our child in the coming weeks. We're all extremely excited, and we've worked through our issues. I'm sure some of you may be disappointed by this, but I 100% believe and trust my wife. I don't think she's a conniving person. She's still the woman I love, and we're all partly responsible for the circumstances that led to this situation. All we can do now is focus on the future. A big thanks to everyone who's offered their support, well wishes, and advice. I truly appreciate all of it. And that's it, signed off, a happy dad of, almost, 2.